We are live. Welcome to another episode of Breaking Into Cybersecurity. Today we have Aastha, who will be sharing her story of breaking into cybersecurity. For those of you who are just joining us, follow us on LinkedIn. Both of us. I have her LinkedIn as well as my own in the profile. For those of you joining us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and that notification button. That way we'll pop up the next time as well. And for those of you listening on podcasts after the fact, share us with all your friends and family, have them subscribe as well, and give us a 10-star rating wherever possible. I think you could do a 5, but let's go ahead with that. And on to the guest of our show today. Did you want to give us a background about yourself and why you were interested in cybersecurity?
Yep, sure. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much, Chris, for having me today in Breaking Into Cybersecurity. My name is Aastha Sahni, and I'm currently working as a technical trainer at XB. So, as part of my job, I'm training customers on SIM, Advanced Threat Detection, which is XDR. So that's the main day-to-day work of my job. I train people. I train different customers of XB on onboarding, understanding the tool and the product, and how they can use it as part of their security operations, how they can integrate XBeam Advanced Analytics and XBeam Data Lake into their day-to-day security operations.
Okay, perfect. So let's take a step back from that. And
Yep.
what really got you interested into cybersecurity?
So I actually graduated. I did my bachelor's in 2013 and I did my bachelor's in computer science. And at that point, when I graduated, um, a lot of my batchmates were getting job as engineers. Like they start off with a junior engineer role or testing engineer role. And when I was applying for those jobs, I wasn't very interested. I was a computer science person during my whole tenure, like 4 years of my bachelor's. I did learn about a lot of things. Like I love data algorithms. I used to love database. I used to love all those things. But during applying for those jobs, getting into those roles, starting off with that engineer job was really not helping me at that point. I usually felt like, okay, if I start with a Java developer, where I would end up myself in the next 5 years, what would be my growth? How am I contributing as an engineer in the industry? And I used to question a lot, to be honest. And many of my friends at that point used to say, like, oh, you are just overthinking and just do the job. Everybody needs money at that point. You want to be independent. And
Mhm.
at that very moment, I quit my job. And my family was literally surprised. My father is a government official. And for everyone who's listening to me, I grew up in India. So I've spent most of my time in India. I moved here to the States just close to 3.5 years ago when I got married. But before that, I was in India living a very regular life there and very struggling since 2013. I was very much struggling at that point. So I left my job. Everybody was questioning. My family was questioning. My father was questioning. They were like, everybody's doing job and what you're going to do. So at that point, I figured out like I want to do masters. So the first thing I realized was maybe there is something missing. I should study further. And then I applied for a couple of entrance exams in India. One of them was GATE, which is Graduate Aptitude Test for Engineering. And trust me, it's one of the toughest exams there. There were some private exams which I enrolled for. I enrolled for full-time coaching. I used to wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning, go to the coaching, and I was very motivated at that point. And that went almost for an year. I also did a job simultaneously.
Mhm.
But once the result was declared for the exams, I cleared the exams. And the next question was, now what type of course I'm going to take up in masters. Is it going to be computer science, or is it going to be something else? And
Mhm.
at that point, I went to various universities at that point, and I went into their counseling programs. I was getting to know about the programs. And when I went to my university, which was Indira Gandhi Delhi Technical University for Women, and it was a government university in New Delhi, India, and I went for counseling. I took a mobile computing course. I don't know for what reason. I realized, like, okay, it's data structuring. It's more about getting about mobile computing. I took that, and 2 weeks after that, they called me for another counseling, and they offered me this program, which was information security management. And for some reason, I kept on asking questions like, what is it about, what we are going to cover in this course, if I switch from my current course to a different course, how it is going to be helpful for me. And to my surprise, they gave me the whole syllabus for the course for the next 2 years. And that was the point. I went for that course because it has hacking. I was a very curious person from the beginning. I used to dig down into concepts, dig down into problems. So, for example, if a code is breaking out during my job, I used to spend hours finding out what's the error. So that that particular thing in me was like, okay, I want to know more about hacking. Then there was networking. I really liked networking a lot at that point. So there was networking, there was forensics, and there was hacking. And I was like, this is interesting. And like, I learned it a bit as part of my bachelor's. There used to be some additional intro courses, but they were not in detail. And
Mhm.
this was very much in detail, semester by semester. And that was the point. I was like, I want to go and do this. This is what I'm going to live for the next 2 years. And trust me, for those next 2 years, they, like, I never looked back. There was no distraction, for a surprise, because in bachelor's program a lot of distractions. I was just so focused doing forensics. I failed my forensics exam for the very first time, and my professor was like, no, you really need to dig down on chain of custody, you really need to dig down on concepts. And I was like, oh my god, this is going really great. I want to pass this exam. I really want to know more about what's happening. And those 2 years were like life changing for me, very life changing. We were like 30 girls in the same classroom for those 2 years. All of us worked hard. We gave our certified ethical hacking exam as well. Like, it was so inspiring. We used to be motivated all the time, every day in the morning to the evening, to study about it. And then after 2 years came the point of finding a job. The job industry was not very welcoming at that point, especially for individuals who are new to cybersecurity. So, to my surprise, to my batchmates' surprise, when we were applying for the job, it wasn't easy. So, for example, in our campus, there were not many companies who were hiring for a master's degree in cybersecurity or any other master's program. So, we were already a bit down. They were
Mhm.
hiring more of bachelors. So, that really affected me. I was like, now what's happening? Why I'm not getting a job? So we tried to reach out to companies outside our campus. We applied for jobs. I literally applied for all possible jobs where I want to start with cyber, because then I had again a choice, either to go for a regular role of a testing engineer or a
Mhm.
coder, or to break into cybersecurity.
Mhm.
So it was a next level struggle there as well. So out of 30 people in my class, to be honest, only 5 or 6 of us today, right now, after 5 years, still only 5 of us are into cyber. Not
Wow.
all of the women couldn't get the jobs. They tried many times. They had no choice, because at the end of a master's program, you really need to start your job.
Yeah.
So I did not compromise on that. 3 or 4 more women, they did not compromise on that. We started with small jobs, we started with small positions, but they were cyber specific positions. So we just wanted
Mhm.
to start. Our salary was not at par with something which a master's program student would be getting. Again, the family was surprised, but I was like, no, I want to start small. So I started with Tata Consultancy Services. They were offering a role in cybersecurity. I
Mhm.
started off with identity and access management, and that's when I officially started with the cybersecurity job. And trust me, it was not easy. In fact, when you complete your training for the job, there are still many chances you might not be allotted a security project.
Really?
Yes,
Wow.
yes.
So, uh, you got that first job. What was it like? in a consulting company
Yeah.
for your first job.
Yeah. So I started again with a great motivation. There was this whole team of 7 to 8 individuals. We had a team lead. We have a couple of colleagues inside the team, and many of you might know, many of you might not know. But Saman Fatima started the like she and I were in the same team when we started the job, and both of us were very excited. First job, and it's cyber specific. It's identity and access management. We were like three women in a, I think, in an almost team of 10-20 people if we include our testing team as well. So there were like 4 to 5 women out of a total of 20 people in the team. And when you start working, you start learning. So once our learning phase was over and we start working, like we were working with SailPoint was the tool we were working on, and we were working with a pharmaceutical client for Tata consultancy services at that point. So we were working as developers and deployment. We were working with managing the identity, their accesses and workflows. The job was good, the work was good. The thing was, we were women. So many times when something used to, like, let's say there's an issue which used to come up in the deployment or in the live environment, and we are figuring it out. And in the evening, we have a client meeting, and let's say, two or three of the women who were in the development and the deployment team, we used to figure out, okay, what the issue was. In the evening, the guys in the team, they used to say, oh my God, you found the solution. But it came up with the sarcasm, like, oh my God, you found the solution. Oh my God, these girls are growing big. So those comments were never easy on us all the time in the team. If you're a woman, to be honest, you like, if you do something, you might have just done by a fluke.
Wow.
And that was not easy, and I think we spent close to 2 years doing that in that team. Like, you would be made fun of everything you do, like, as a woman. If you troubleshoot any issue, you will be made fun of. If you raise your hand and you want to say, like, I want to participate in this new project or new initiative which is coming in, you might not be entertained. You might be just said, like, oh, there's a lot of time for you to learn. And surprisingly, when I left that job in my last few days, um, I heard people saying, especially who were at higher positions in our team, mentioning that these girls have found new job. We don't know how they have found it. We don't think so they can find a job, and what would they do there? It was good if they were here. So there was always a doubt for us being staying there or move from those jobs as well. Those notice period time was not easy. We were made to do extra work during the notice period, and a lot of
Wow.
sarcasm along with that, like, we will see where you go.
Wow, let me share some of the comments that we have. So, Samina mentioned you're such an inspiration. And then someone, Retta said, I agree with Samina. You're such an inspiration already. So, you look for a new job. What was that here in the States? Was that back in India? How's that transition like as well?
So I started looking for job in the later part of 2018. At that point, I started to think about moving to States. I was planning to do a double masters, and I was also applying for other jobs. So one reason was I really wanted to grow financially as well, because I started off with a less salary, but cyber was my focus at that point. And at the same time, I wanted to move to another company and move to another, let's say, culture, because I was very frustrated. I really
Yeah.
wanted to move out of the job. So I started applying for multiple jobs. I got jobs. Like, I got a job, I think 2 jobs. I cleared 2 jobs at that point. Both were consulting firms. And suddenly I met my to-be husband at that point. And I told him, like, okay, this is happening. I'm switching a job and I wanted to move to States. I'm applying for programs as well. And then um, things happened. Then I did switch job, but I was there only for like 3-4 months because I got married and I moved here with my husband in March 2019. So I was just there in the new job for like 3 to 4 months at Nagaro, and then I switched to States. When I came here, again, a shift in culture, everything was new to me.
Mhm.
And I was again excited because I was in a country where there are a lot of opportunities. Cybersecurity was growing, and there were ample amount of jobs that I could apply. So interestingly, When I came here in 2 to 3 months, I took a break of 2 to 3 months, and then I started applying for a job. I got a job as an IM engineer, and everything was going well. In 4 5 months, I was laid off. There's no reason behind that, and that was also that was also a very shocking point for me, because we don't have this type of a culture in India. So when I was laid off, I told my husband the day, like, I lost my job, and he was like, "Are you kidding me? Don't play." And I was like, "No, I'm not kidding." Nobody was actually trusting me at that point. I was just sitting still. I was like, one day you get a job, you get a call, and you're
Yeah.
working, and you're said like you're laid off, and this is your last day.
Wow.
And you're already missing your family. It's not easy, because it does take time for you to settle in a new country, to
Yeah.
find yourself again, to build those connections. And suddenly I lost my job. And for those few days and weeks, I just couldn't accept this, because I didn't know something like this happens and might be normal.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard for me to accept that I was nowhere responsible for that layoff. It was due to companies' decision, due to some of the projects they were working on. They might had to lay off and eliminate my position, but it was very, very hard. And I think that point, Zoe Britterman, Jessica Robinson, these two wonderful ladies, and Nilofer Tamboli. These three ladies really supported me a lot. At that point, I was volunteering for InfoSec Girls. I was leading their New York chapter. I
Mm-hmm.
and Zoe, we used to go to New York City to give volunteer sessions at different offices, sometimes universities. So we were going, we were on the go, and I was applying for the job. So I had more extra time to do things, to expand my learning. And at that point, I started off with Cyber Preserve. Some, like, one of my friends suggested, like, since school time, I used to teach a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It was by default. Like, I used to prepare for an exam, and then I used to call my friends, like, okay, let's make a group and I'll teach you. Tomorrow's maths exam. Let's do maths. And when I used to come back home, I used to call my friends and like, okay, which question are you stuck on? I'll help you. And my mom used to be like, prepare yours. Why are you so busy teaching others? And I used to feel like I love it. I really enjoy, and this is like a revision for me when I teach them.
Exactly.
So, so
Exactly.
one of my friends, my school friend, she suggested, like, why don't you start a channel? Why don't you start something of your own? You have this time, utilize it for the better, instead of thinking, keep on doing that, overthinking what happened. Just put it aside and just start something. So I started Cyber Preserve, and I decided to teach more people and mentor more people in cyber. So I started making the curriculum. I involved Saman and Shruti Rupa into that, and we started building curriculum, and I started building more lessons through Cyber Preserve. I started inviting people in those 2 3 months about talking about their cyber journey, what did they do, and what domains they are coming from. And that was again very life changing, because it improved my communication skills at first end. It brought back that confidence which I was losing after losing a job, being away
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
family. And the second thing was, when I started off all of this, Zoe and Jessica Robinson in the back end, they really helped me, like push me, like getting all the, like, apply for the jobs. They used to be the ones behind me stating that you're doing good. Especially Zoe, she was there like, you're doing good. Apply for more roles. You're going to get it. And while I was doing Cyber Preserve, I thought of it, like, in additionally applying for a consultant role, let's apply for a teaching role as well.
Yeah.
I've been doing these volunteer teaching sessions. So I went to Flatiron School one day, and it was initially planned with Zoe, but I went with someone else, one of my friend, and I had to take a session on intro to pen testing, and they really liked it. They were their computer students, their software engineering students. I got a great feedback from them, and then there was this vacancy for an instructor which came up. I immediately applied for that role. I interviewed, and I think in those next 2 to 3 weeks, I got the job. And that was the time I literally switched from being a consultant to a person who is going to become an instructor. The
Mm-hmm.
next challenge came was, I had a back end experience in identity access management and application security. Due to COVID,
Mm-hmm.
each thing's happened with something with me. So I was deciding to go to on campus. I was very excited and to teach application and network security. But due to COVID and their staffing needs, they switched me to teach SIM and threat hunting. And I knew a part of SIM and threat hunting as part of my curriculum, as part of what I learned from my master's, but still it was new. And then again, I started to got nervous. I was like, what do I do now? I've got a job. I need to do this job. I cannot lose this job now. I've really worked hard for it. And trust me, before getting a final job at Flatiron School, I got 2 to 3 final offers, but I couldn't get the job. I didn't know why.
Mhm.
I think it was just the cyber preserve thing and the volunteering stuff I was doing. It just kept me going at that point. And I talked to a couple of friends, few of them in the from the industry. They suggested not to go with this role because you don't know.
Mhm.
And few of them who really trusted me, they were like, you should go, just ask for some preparation time, and
Yeah.
we think you can do this. And then I talked to my husband. I was like, I am in a very 50-50 situation, like what should I be doing? And he was like, you should do this. If you have learned this, if you have done your job, you can do
Mhm.
this as well. And then I got like 6 weeks time to prepare for my first teaching. At that time, I was coach to the students, like the new students who were coming in, until the
Mhm.
time I went into live teaching. So I started off with the teaching people SIM and threat hunting. The very first cohort went for like 3 to 4 weeks, 3 to 4 months. Sorry, not 3 to 4 weeks. And
Mhm.
after those 4 months, I was like, now I feel relaxed. I did it. I did it. It went well because one of the pressure I had in my mind was I do not want to teach them wrong.
Yeah.
I'm their instructor, and at the same time, I'm learning myself. And then again, I didn't look back after that. That kick was something I really needed from my friends and family at that point. Like, you should be able to do this. So now I switched from IM to SIM and threat hunting. I did my instructor job for 2 years, and in the last 3-4 months, I switched to Exabeam as a technical trainer. So the switch is like this. I moved from IM and application security to SIM and to threat hunting. And
Mhm.
there was no specific scenario which was played here. It was just I wanted to do this. I really
Mhm.
wanted to make sure, like, I want to switch my domains as well, one of the important things. And it wasn't easy. I would say you really need that 1 year of 2020, when the pandemic hit everyone. I worked for like 14, 15 hours because I wanted to like master what I'm teaching, the tools I'm teaching, and the concepts I'm teaching. And I did my certifications last year for SIM. So it wasn't easy, but I would say I was just determined to do this. And whenever I used to feel like, am I doing right? Am I doing right? I think that's strong support systems that you have is something that really can support you at that point. So, yeah.
Wow. So a lot. I just shared your link for Cyber Preserve so that others can check it out as well. You mentioned working for 14, 15 hours. You mentioned teaching people back when you were studying for your classes. And I think that's something people often forget is that when you are able to comprehend the information enough to teach it, then you know it. And even if you're one step ahead of someone, that's one step that you can teach. So some of the great feedback coming in, you have an incredible story. Let's talk about some of your transitions. How did you prepare for or decide that you wanted to like switch domains from IAM to threat hunting? How did you prepare for that? What are some of the things that you did that you could share with others that they could do?
Yeah, definitely. I think community here plays a major role, as I was mentioning people. So I was part of a couple of communities since I think 2015. So I think
Mhm.
I forgot to mention this. When I started off with my masters, I started exploring what's going on in cyber. So I was in New Delhi, India at that point. I joined their OWASP chapter of like their Delhi chapter. I
Mhm.
used to go to their monthly meetups and just listen initially, just listen what's going on, what are the sessions being taken care of at that point. Sometimes I used to be only women. So people,
Mhm.
instead of watching the speaker who's speaking, they used to look at me like, okay, she's the only lady sitting in the room. And I used to feel awkward at certain points. And then I started becoming comfortable because they were not questioning me, to be honest. It was just, I used to seem like odd one out, like suddenly there's a woman in the room. So I started with OWAS Delhi chapter, then moved to InfoSec Girls. And as I was part of different communities, I realized one thing. Now I'm into cyber. So the, there was that time when I was getting into cyber, and now, uh, let's say 4 years ago, I was already into cyber. Now, what to do? now where am I, and how I can find my path. So when I was thinking about all these questions, I discussed with my close friends, and then I realized like we really need to talk about women who are in the industry already, or we really need to talk about people who are in the industry already, because many times we talk about, let's say, things like how to get into the field. But what about I'm inside the field and I really want to switch, I really want to grow in here in the
Yep.
industry, what to do? So with that, I in 2021 I started with the Lean in Breaking Barrier Circle. I just thought about it one day. I read that book long time ago from Sheryl Sandberg, and it clicked me at that point. Okay, let's make a small group and just ask women in the industry what they are doing, how they are switching their career. So in early 2021, I started off with the circle Lean in Breaking Barriers, and within I think 7-8 months we grew so much. I registered us as a non-profit. So now it's BBWIC Foundation. So it was registered in 2021, October 2021. So what happened was when I met women in the industry, I discussed with them, okay, what do you do? What do you work for? What's your domain? How did you get into that domain? My interest is going in this direction. I started teaching sim, I started teaching threat hunting, and I want to continue this. So in my future job, I don't want to go back to I am now. I've spent good amount of time, and as I was instructing at Flatiron in school, I was teaching, I was utilizing tools, but I wanted to go back to the industry now. And going back to the industry is not easy, because I used to get a lot of calls from the recruiters, and there was one thing they used to say was, you are an instructor, how can you join our team? You are an instructor, how can you join our team? You know things theoretically but not practically. And in my mind I was like, I'm teaching tools, I'm training people, and it's not like I'm training people on theoretical basis. I'm helping them practically as well. It's very hard for you at that point to like explain your scenario to the recruiter. So I started improvising my resume. I started to add more practicalities to my role instead of just looking at like an instructor role. And then second thing was I started looking for roles similar to what I was doing. So for example, I started applying for more trainer roles in the industries where my existing skills and my cyber skills, both of them, can be combined and I can make my way back in the industry. So those things really helped. The circle which I started, it really helped because I had people who were already from the threat hunting industry. There were people, I had friends who were moving from application security to forensics. So they had their own struggles which they brought into place. And two things really helped was, one was your own learning, discussion with the people who are in those roles, what type of tools they use, what type of training would be required, how much you can do that training for free, and how much you can do that, let's say, for paid. So taking those advice from the women in the industry really helped, like, okay, what type of certifications I can do to showcase my skills. Certifications at that time become important when you're literally switching, because those becomes your approval of that, okay, validations, like, okay, this person has studied this and they have this certification. So certification, I did a Splunk certification last year, I did a Microsoft certification last year. Both of them really helped to keep my resume up and running with the type of roles I wanted to apply. So I'm not saying if I had not done those certifications, I would have not got a job, but might not get the required job in the area I'm looking for. So I have to be very specific at that point. We started working in study groups. We started working on tools. We started showing each other results. We started discussing, okay, what's going wrong. So we used to take feedback, not just me, the women in my group. We started taking feedbacks. Okay, what am I doing? What's going wrong? In fact, when I got my job, I got 2 to 3 offers again at that point, and I was confused what to do. Again, there were experienced women in my circle. I had a meeting with them. I asked them for their advice. Like, this is what I have done. This is what I'm planning to do. And this is what I have been offered right now. Do you think it's right? Do you think it can be helpful? Do you think what I'm thinking? Do you have some additional advice to give me? So that those things really helped when you connect with people, when you start working, you ask for suggestions, and you start learning more. So learning, I would say, has been constant. It has been constant till now. I make sure I continue to learn more tools. My circle makes sure we continue to do new things together, and that's how we converted the Lean In Circle into BBWIC Foundation, because we thought there is really a need for existing women or existing people in the industry to know how to switch, to know how to move up in the ladder, and to get that motivation to learn every day. It's not easy to push yourself to learn every day. You might get bored, you might lose motivation. So those 3 to 4 factors, I think, really motivated me and the women in my foundation to like upscale. And I think this really helped. Not only I switched domain, there are few other women in my foundation who switched domain and have started new jobs.
So you mentioned that learning was everything, but I think networking was everything too, because both
Yes, yes,
you're
both.
networking with your student peers as well as others in the industry played a critical aspect in your role. Um,
Absolutely.
wow, that time flew by, half hour already. So let's think a time in the future, someone is rewatching this video. What one piece of advice would you give to them for their journey into cybersecurity?
Yeah, definitely. I think as we talk through it, one thing is your continuous learning and good networking. So when you start to network, many times you might see people on social media as they see. When you connect with them, when you build that relationship, you get to know about them more. So building those networks, building those strong connections, you have to be, I would say, very determined on that. As well as you're spending more time on learning, you
Mhm,
have to spend time on building good relationships, on building good network, building good foundations. So it's like giving back and
mhm,
contribution as well. So it's like when you give back, you build those networks. When you give back, you help others, and same happens with you, like others help you. So
mhm,
that networking and learning combination, I think, is very much important, because if learning is not there, and only networking is there, it's not going to help you in long run, because if learning part is not there, because what are you going to perform in the interview when you have not prepared well? And at the
absolutely.
same time, when you are trying to, like as I said, during my struggling days, that networking really helped to push me all the time. So both are needed, and continuous efforts are needed from both the sides. And of course, as you learn, try to apply it on certifications that you want to pursue for your future roles. Like, you might not want to do certain certifications that you are aspiring now. So as you plan, there are several certifications. Think how that certification is going to help you to move into that role, because there are so many, and they are not easy, they are expensive as well. So find out though if those certifications are really going to help you in your path of learning and growth.
Wow, that's such a valid point too, because oftentimes people will say, "Oh, I'm getting this certification. Would you recommend it?" I'm like, "Well, you have to think about what role you want to go, where you want to go, if that certification is even worth it." So, thank you for highlighting that as well. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. For those of you following us on LinkedIn, please follow myself as well as, I'm gonna say it again, Asata.
Asta.
Asta. Okay, perfect. Thank you. For those of you on LinkedIn, hit subscribe. On YouTube, hit subscribe, hit that notification button. And after the fact, on all of our different platforms, just share, give us good ratings. And thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having